Before I start looking through some of the exercises from Chapter 10, I want to give us a preview of Chapter 11, and that is when we start looking carefully about this keyword static and what it really means. So basically, static means that I don't have to have an instance of the class in order to run this method. And so if you think back to a couple videos ago, an instance of a class means I use new to make an actual copy of a class. So if you think about how main works, when you run your program, there is no special Java that makes a new copy of the Chapter 10 class yet, right? There's no new Chapter 10 anywhere. So the main method has to be static because because otherwise we wouldn't be able to run this method because we wouldn't have an instance of Chapter 10. So it's kind of a chicken and egg problem. The main is always the special main method is always static for that reason, because when you start in main, we don't have an instance of the class yet. So we've kind of been sidestepping this issue and not really talking about what static means and so forth because we haven't been using new a lot for our own classes. But now we're starting to talk a little bit more about objects and what they mean. And so let's see what it means here. Really what I would like to do in the glorious future, say next week, is to have all of my methods not be static for the most part. I mean, it's very rare when you're programming that you're going to make a static method. Most of the time you're going to have a method that acts on information available inside the class. We'll see next week more about properties that you can put on the class and how those look and what you can do with those. But I'm going to start this week by saying what I would prefer is to just say public string, get weekday string. Now here's my problem. So now this means if it's not static, it means that I have to have some place in my code where it says new chapter 10 in order to make a copy of this class and use it. But nowhere in here do I have any code that says new chapter 10. I'm just calling get weekday string here. This is going to be a build error. Let's just make sure I'm not lying. Yep, it says non-static method cannot be referenced from a static context. So this means you must make a new chapter 10 before you can call this get weekday string on it. To give you a little bit more background about this, let me show you some static calls and non-static calls. Here are some static calls that we've been using. System.out.println, whatever. This is a system class. Nowhere did I have to say new system. I'm just allowed to say system and access its variable and then call println. So all of these pieces are static and then I just call the method. In contrast, I can't say this, and here's another one, math.abs, right, for absolute value, -7, say. So this is another totally legal static call. So these are use of static methods. Println is a static method inside this this stream that is static inside the system class, which is static. Math has an abs method, which takes the absolute value, which is static inside math. So I can just say math.abs. But I can't say scanner.nextInt, right? That's not something that's possible for me to do. I have to do the following. I have to say scanner scan equals new scanner, right? And then once I have a new scanner, I even have to pass it a stream to use. Then I can say scan.nextInt. So this is an example of a non-static call, a non-static method. NextInt requires you to make an instance of a scanner first. And then to call nextInt on that instance. So I can't say scanner.nextInt. I have to make one with new, then I have to call nextInt on it. By the same token, I would like to start doing that in all of my classes that I make. And so I have started that process up here by removing the static from my method. So that means that anywhere I want to call getWeekDayString, I will have to make a new Chapter 10 class and then call it on that Chapter 10 class. So here's how that would look. It's okay if this doesn't make a whole bunch of sense right now. We'll work at it, and over time it will make more sense. This is the first time we've talked about static and non-static. I think it's grasping it at the beginning is just work at it. Can no longer do this because this is like saying chapter 10.getWeekDayString. Okay, it's the same thing as saying that. I can't do that anymore because I just took the static off. So instead, I need to make an instance of my chapter 10 object. I'm gonna comment this out for a bit because I don't actually want to run it and have it wait for me to type it in here. Chapter 10, my program equals new chapter 10. It seems weird, right? I'm kind of in the chapter 10 Java file and I'm making a new chapter 10. Ooh, weird, but there it is. This is how you do it. We'll see this again next chapter, but this is just a preview. Oh, right. Just show you that it actually does build now. And run. The same as before. We'll be back at this for chapter 11. Now we'll go on. Let's go on and take a look at some of the exercises in chapter 10.